Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, His Excellency Mr. Laipo Leke Dorji, Honorable Minister of Finance, the Royal Government of Bhutan, His Excellency Mr. Moza Zamir, Honorable Minister of Finance, Republic of Maldives, Mr. Tuhin Pandey, my colleagues from CII, Dinesh and Chanjudit, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May I also add my welcome to all of you to this very important forum. It is a privilege to be part of the strategic deliberations on the decadal priorities for the global economy. Thank you, Honorable Finance Minister, for being here with us today, despite your very, very busy schedule. Your visionary interventions over the past few years have truly transformed the Indian economy into a beacon of hope amidst a sluggish global environment. In fact, some of your path-breaking initiatives offer templates for rapid growth across the world. Under your leadership, we look forward to building this forum as a guiding light for the global economic policy with due focus on the issues of emerging economies. Based on India's rapid growth, there are several lessons that emerge which I thought I will put across as case studies or lessons that could be leveraged for in countries where rapid growth is being looked at. First, India is the fifth largest economy and very much on its way to becoming the third largest in the world. The country accounts for 16% of the global growth, and this is likely to increase given the continued rapid growth of the Indian economy. Purposeful policy support over the years have resulted in India's stellar progress, which has been inclusive and sustainable. These policies and reforms, together with very robust execution mechanisms, are driving inclusive and sustainable growth, providing a template for many countries aspiring for rapid growth. Second, India is one of the few countries in the world that has walked the talk on climate action and climate commitments. India achieved two of its nationally determined contributions committed in 2015 on reducing emission intensity and creating non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity 7 years in advance. Given the scale of the development and the rapid progress on climate commitments, India's growth model would be very unique, characterized by low carbon growth pathways. It is obvious that a sustainable future cannot go without a sustainable lifestyle. And in this context, I thought I will mention India's pioneering initiative called Lifestyle for Sustainable Environment, which embodies the principles of sustainable lifestyle. These are templates for the developing world, not only for the developing worlds, but for the entire world to adopt. Third, India provides successful models for inclusive growth at scale. Over the last 10 years, India has pursued a saturation approach in reaching basic services to all its citizens, which include health, education, electricity, housing, food, digital services, financial inclusion, water, and sanitation. These initiatives have had great success in improving the lives of millions of its people, and many of these programs have unparalleled scale. For example, Ayushman Bharat is the world's largest publicly funded health insurance scheme. Some time back, very bold steps were taken to boost investments in public infrastructure. Under the leadership of the Honorable Finance Minister, as a result, India has witnessed unprecedented scale and quality of urban and rural infrastructure, mobility and connectivity, and social infrastructure, besides crowding in private investment. The impact on the economy has been multifaceted and has significantly reduced the cost of doing business and improving ease of living. India's climate-resilient infrastructure guidelines and framework for planning, design, and monitoring have enabled such impactful outcomes at scale. Fifth, India has leveraged digitization in many spheres. Its digital public infrastructure based on open architecture is a shining example of how public-private partnerships can help deliver digital services to all citizens. Digitization is being used to strengthen ease of doing business with interventions like the National Single Window System and the India Industrial Bank Initiative. The agri-digital stack is set to revolutionize the Indian agriculture sector. The open network for digital commerce will provide global access to all businesses, big and small. The unified lending interface is expected to transform credit delivery, much like the unified payment system transformed the payments. UPI itself is one of the world's largest payment systems. The digital infrastructure empowers the economy by promoting financial inclusion, enhancing service delivery efficiency, reducing transaction costs, and creating a platform for innovation and potentially contributing to a substantial increase in GDP. These initiatives are replicable, and consequently, many countries have shown great interest in adopting these. Sixth, India is progressively playing a role in building global supply chain resilience. The rule of law, institutionally governed structures, and a forward-looking, industry-friendly policy environment make India a trusted partner and a favorable investment destination. In addition to offering competitive business environment, it also offers a large domestic market. Due to its demographic dividend, India can be a source at scale for both manufacturing and services, not only for the domestic market, but for the world at large. The noteworthy progress in electronics, semiconductor, solar panel industries are just some examples, and so is also the very rapid increase in the global capability centers in India are just some examples. India can thus emerge as a formidable partner for rebalancing global supply chains. Ladies and gentlemen, as we navigate an increasingly interconnected world, India's role as a partner in progress and a leader in innovation offers hope and inspiration. We look forward to sharing the Indian perspective at this forum and learning from global experiences. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. You have really gone into detail as to how industry and businesses have benefited from some of the best of economic policies that we have seen over the last few years. The entire world has appreciated the steering of our economy so very deftly in the last few years, in spite of many global challenges that we have faced, the headwinds that have come along. But we have seen India stand tall with its economic handling. And the Honorable Finance Minister has been, if one can say, most gracious whenever policy recommendations have been put up to her with her and brought up to her in terms of considering them and seeing how it can benefit each and every section of the society and, of course, create greater momentum to India and led us so very effectively over the last many years. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming and requesting the Honorable Finance Minister, our Chief Guest and Chairman of the session, to please address us.
Good morning, and I'm happy to be here in the second edition of what is now becoming a good platform, largely for the Global South to meet, to exchange ideas, and to see how the global economy can be an effective instrument of bettering people and their lives. So let me start with thanking CII, Sanjeev Puri, Dinesh, Chandrajit Banerjee, and today on the dais is the Finance Secretary Tuhin Pandey. But very importantly, I'd like to extend on behalf of CII and on behalf of Government of India a warmest welcome to our very gracious ministers, His Excellency Minister Dorji from Bhutan and His Excellency Minister Musa Zamir from Maldives. We are grateful that you found time to participate and come and share your thoughts with us in this forum. And I look at this event as one of the major, I think I've said this earlier once before, this is a major platform through which the voice of the industry, voice of commerce, voice of concern from domain experts which come through is heard, and we greatly rely on the inputs that I get from here. So thank you for continuing with it for the second time, and I wish that this event becomes a major platform for hearing the concerns on economy from the global south, and also has in the audience and as participants eminent representatives from the developed economies, because the world can no longer be divided in these kind of very comfortable zones of globally advanced and globally not so advanced, or then looking at factors of production which are under severe stress. So today, let me start by appreciating the CII for taking up a topic, I think, which is just the relevant one for today, the decadal priorities for global economy. We may be talking about it in different fora and with different emphasis given, but today, when we talk together, each one of us from our own perspective, we understand what the world needs to do immediately. And that is going to be critical for our lives on several aspects. So I'll just put my thoughts across today and not get into any data at all, but only flag issues of concern where industry together with policymakers, strategic leadership together with citizens forums will all have to work on those larger goals. Otherwise, the decade would be frittered away. We can't even restore or claw back where we were before the COVID. But what we need to do is not just go back to where we were before COVID, but claw back more so that we are able to enter into this century with a lot more. We are already into it, 2 decades have passed, but enter into the middle of the century with a lot more strength. So broadly, I would think, first of all, the attempt both of industry and governments everywhere should be to restore some global calm, restore some normalcy. No way can there be enough justifiable reason for skirmishes or war. So the first effort, I think the global priority for this decade should be restore normalcy. Talk, sit and discuss. War should be avoided. Disruption should be avoided. They are the main cause for supply chain disruptions. They are the main cause for disruptions in food value chains. And also, when you look at it, inflation globally is a big challenge. But inflation, as you know, doesn't respect borders. Inflation is so contagious that nowhere is any country's effort today is completely successful, because beyond its powers are inflation forces which come in. And therefore, the primary cause, I would think, is the disruption, the skirmish, the war, and as a result, world is facing a challenge which is reflected in very many ways in our economies. So I would think it's incumbent upon all of us, industry, government, policymakers, citizens and citizens forum, to tirelessly try to have some normalcy. Second is the oft-discussed problem, which Sanjeev Puri also referred to, supply chain disruption. The world tasted success of spreading supply chains on the principles of efficiency rules, scale rules, so Adam Smith rules, and therefore we located such production centers or hubs where it was economically making sense. But today, would there be anyone in the audience who will disagree if I say just economics doesn't prevail? Just the economics doesn't prevail, strategy prevails, politics prevails. So even if it made supply chain, if it made economic sense to concentrate production of certain particular commodities or goods or even services in some pockets and derive the benefit of such a concentration, today the concentration risk is playing out in so many different ways, not because of economic sense or economic not making sense. It's more on politics. It's more on strategy. And therefore today, economy will have to keep in mind or consideration, commercial considerations or economics, whether it is scale-based economics, will all have to look at blending economy and its priorities also with politics and with strategic needs. So when you talk of supply chains, when you talk of wanting to restore supply chains to some kind of ease, frictionless supply chains, let's not forget that it is just not economics, it's more than that. What is all that we are talking about when we want to de-risk ourselves, when we want to remove from certain concentrations +1, +2, what are these theories? They didn't emerge out of inefficiency of economics. They emerged out of economy being influenced, economic principles being influenced by political principles. And therefore, I think somewhere we have to inbuild in our own decision-making just not economic sense, but also political and strategic sense. Supply chains will have to be restored, but you would reset it, you would realign it, you would make sure that they are spread so much that no political or geopolitical or strategic risks will threaten our well-being. And why do I say well-being here suddenly? It's because unless economies lift themselves and lift their people from such mores that we see, particularly in the global south, we cannot speak of any right, human rights or anything emerge out of economic well-being. And only then the other political rights and other things fall in place. If basic needs are not met of human beings, we are not in a position to speak, or we do not have a right to speak about political and other rights. So I think supply chains, lessons that we've learned in the last few years, in the last decade, should tell us that we have to now realign ourselves. Industry will have to realign itself, not just on economic principles. Third is the climate change, again something which Sanjeev Puri rightly spoke about. Climate is becoming a big issue, and here it is not just who's getting affected worse by one or the other. I think climate change has hit all of us in very many different ways. But what are more than the climate challenge itself, is the challenge of finding resources to meet those challenges. A lot of discussions happen, a lot of promises are made on the table, but nothing is realized as much as was spoken. So climate change is something for all of us to commit ourselves, like the intensity with which we commit for removal of poverty. I'm sure most of us in every country, advanced or developing or emerging, commitment to removal of poverty, commitment to working together with our poor at different levels and different scales is a commitment which all of us are living with and wanting to perform on. So equally, I would think it's important that on climate, we commit ourselves to make sure our people don't lose their hard-earned wealth, hard-earned small assets, their lives to climate vagaries. Extreme weather events are taking away hard-earned resources of the poor people. Are we giving them resilient infrastructure? Are we giving them a livelihood which they can quickly restore after a major event? Are we giving them such insurance, let us say, to take care of such economic disaster which may fall on them? So I think climate challenges will have to be looked at from various different perspectives rather than just, yes, emission is an indicator. It's a diagnostic tool. But after that, how do we sort the problem out? Who puts the money in? Do we wait for a collective resource to reach us, or is it that some of us will start doing our little bit for our own countries? Waiting for something which is going to come will lose the advantage, will make us lose the advantage of a number of years where we have not acted. We wouldn't have acted, and therefore we lost. We will tend to lose the advantage that we have. The next one on the decadal priorities, I would think, is agriculture and allied activities, where you need a lot more innovations, where you need a lot more technology application, and also making sure that these are applied in such a way that the farmers and those who are engaged in agri-related activities have a better livelihood, and at the same time, we ensure the food security of the world. So we need to look at agricultural practices, each within its own context. Water-thirsty crops should be replaced by others which are coarse grains, but yet the protein requirement of the world will also have to be addressed. So agriculture shouldn't be looked at in the same fashion that we've looked at it all these years, centuries. But today we have to look at various different ways. Your picture very clearly showed at the beginning the various forms in which we are reforming agriculture without depending on very scarce resources, just like water and so on. But at the same time, rapidity with which we engage in bringing novel and innovative ways for agriculture and allied activities is also a very strong instrument for security, and also containing supply side and inflationary pressure on commodities. It is absolutely important. This issue of boiling water, not countries blessed with abundant supply of fresh water. But how are we going to handle this challenge, because it's getting scarcer even by the years? So that will be a decadal priority, I would think. Industrial reset is something which I've already spoken about. Industry will have to look at ways in which it can adapt to the newer challenges which are happening. And in that, as a next point, I would like to say, scale cannot be just the criteria. Large and larger corporations are welcome because they give you the advantage of scale. But I would also think scale together with spread. And when I say spread, there are countries like India who have always had the strength of the smaller and medium-sized enterprises. We need to have a blend of large for the scale and small for a horizontal scale. And when I say horizontal scale, you cannot have one unit established in one place and producing with efficiencies of scale. But they can only generate a certain number of jobs. When you spread it across, and there are many more medium and small size units everywhere, each one doing their own. Of course, the country should ensure quality is established. Many other efficiencies which come with technology are also brought into them. Unless enterprises spread across the length and breadth of any country, particularly for large countries like India, particularly for large countries with population of the youth now in our favor, unless we spread across, and unless we have the advantage of scale in that sense, that you spread it across the country and give that energy for the micro, small, and medium enterprises, you're just not going to reap the benefit for your demographic dividend, which is waiting to be fully realized. So I would suggest, for the decadal priority, industry should work together with small and medium units to see how they can be supportive of the large unit equally as much as they supporting job creation. So today the problem is not economic success, which is just production, but it is also economic success, which can spread benefits for those who are waiting for jobs and wages. So that, I would think, will be facilitated, will be made easy through technology. Sanjeev Puri, again, referring to him again, spoke about how India's DPI, digital payment interface, India's technology-driven ONDC, the Open Network for Digital Commerce, and India's technology stack for agriculture have all brought in at one go the advantage to democratize access. Farmers are able to today access global markets. You're able to give them the advantage of technology, which instantly gives them the benefit of information about the soil condition, about the intensity of crop output, about how a weather situation can affect him or how we can prevent damage. So that agri-stack, which is, I'm sure, going to be the next big thing that you hear from India. You heard about the digital payment interface. The agri-stack is the next big thing from India, technology-driven, which is going to take care of agriculture and allied activities. So the same technology bridge is what I would strongly suggest as a facilitator for scaling up in largeness and scaling across, which will share the benefit for all the youth who are located in different areas, but who do not have access to resources or to opportunities. So technology it is going to be. And similarly, when I talked about access and opportunities for the youth, it is that technology, the digital learning instruments that you can bring in. India's brought in digital university. We're trying to give extension training for youth in different far-flung areas through technology. Industry today, I'll call upon you. You should work together, not just with the Indian government, but with governments across the world. If you are looking for trained and skilled manpower at various levels that you may need them, unless you are going to work with the governments to have them be trained in such skill sets which you require, it is going to be difficult for industry to say, I need manpower, but I don't get the right kind. You can't sit and ask somebody to provide that for you. I would strongly call upon industry to work together on a priority to ensure use the technology, use digital instruments to make sure youth who get out of universities are trained in such a fashion that they are available for you when you want the manpower. So I would think that should be a decadal priority for industry as much for governments. And the final point that I'd like to put as a point of priority for the decade, as much for you, more for the government, is debt and financial security. Intergenerational debt is mounting on countries. Responsible economies, and I speak for the industry and for government, responsible economies can't be run with borrowings so large that the next generation and generation after that already knows what it is liable to repay. That after all will have to be passed through as taxation. You're not going to be able to generate that resource to pay back the debt. So I would think it is absolutely important for governments and for industry to work together to say how best debt can be managed at the national, and I hate using this word, but I would say at the subnational level. I mean the federal and the provincial level. It is important for us to manage our debt. COVID brought us to such a situation where, well, whether you liked it or not, you had to borrow. And I'm not saying that we remained outside of borrowing. We also borrowed. But we are super conscious about the fact that we cannot burden our forthcoming generations with debt that is not sustainable. Yes, debt is required. But we need to be, in this coming decade, I think the priority should be to manage your finances and borrow, yes, borrow for building assets, borrow for managing better, but it cannot be such borrowing that you leave the next coming generations worried about how they can service it. And financial security is something also which is important, and I'm sure you recognize how nations today are worried, and multilateral development institutions are not yet ready to cope with the modern requirements, post-COVID requirements of countries. particularly in managing their financial situation. India, during its G20 presidency, made sure that we gave a recommendation with the international expert group that we constituted for the reform of multilateral financial institutions, because they should rise timely to help countries that need that kind of a finance and also assistance in time. Otherwise, economies are going to be severely challenged. So without taking more of your time, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I've just shared some thoughts, but these are, I suppose, going to be very important for the coming decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Finance Minister, for indeed such a visionary address to the world, if I may say, to the global south and for India and for the Indian business leaders in all our policy discussions. From your address today will flow the several sessions, and I'm sure that each and every session will deliberate and discuss and take forward the thoughts and ideas that you have given to us this morning. We indeed appreciate yours covering each and every topic that was listed in the main ideas that are to be discussed in this forum this year. Once again, a very warm thanks and a very, very sincere gratitude to you for sparing your time in giving us this huge start that this forum needed. With that, I would request Mr. R. Dinesh. Dinesh has been leading from the CII side the structures, etc., from the regarding the summit, to quickly wrap up on the way forward from what we pick up from the Honorable Finance Minister's speech today.
Thank you, CB. Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Honorable Minister of Finance of Bhutan, Honorable Minister of the Republic of Maldives, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the close of the inaugural plenary, I think we take away a message which is very, very clear. So thank you, Honorable Finance Minister, for laying out the clear potential which the next 10 years hold, but what we as participants in this growth journey will have to do to make that happen. In a way, we are tasked with navigating the economic recovery in the aftermath of many global disruptions. The Honorable Finance Minister used the word restoring global calm, and that's something which all of us look forward to. The task goes beyond economic indicators. It includes building a world where opportunity is universal, innovation is used ethically, and progress respects the boundaries. As we conclude this inaugural session, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Honorable Finance Minister, who took the lead and supported us when we met her last year. And as CB pointed out, we believe that this can become the event of the Global South, as you have mentioned, Madam, and we will work closely with you to make this happen going forward. Madam, your vision for India and the world and how we are going to engage has set us a clear path. We look forward to carrying forward the points which you have mentioned, and we will definitely come out with an outcome paper post this event and see what we can implement together in the year ahead. I would like to again thank you for your visionary leadership, and we look forward to working with you to make this much more successful. I would like to thank His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Lekhi Dorje. I also thank His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Musa Zamir. I would like to thank all those who have helped us in putting together this program, other than from the Government of India, and of course the CII staff who have made all this possible. I look forward to the deliberations in the next few days and look forward to the outcome paper, which we will all release under your able leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. We now would like to present a token of appreciation to to all our ministers. May I request Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey, Secretary Finance, to kindly hand over a token of appreciation to His Excellency Mr. Dorji, Honorable Finance Minister, the Royal Government of Bhutan, please. May I request him once again to kindly hand over a token of appreciation to His Excellency Mr. Musa Zamir, Honorable Minister of Finance, Republic of Maldives. And now I request our DG, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, to honor the Finance Minister of India, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, with a token of appreciation from us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we close the inaugural session, and I'd like to thank all our dignitaries on the dais for their presence here and request all of them to please come forward and stand together for a photo opportunity. I request all of you to remain seated as our dignitaries leave the hall. Our next session in this hall is the 4 trends that will shape the global economy in the coming decade: AI and technology, demography, geopolitics, sustainability. This session will take place in this hall. We have a parallel session in the hall opposite this, Shah Jahan Hall, which is the future of regulation, balancing innovation and risk. For those of you who would like to attend Future of Regulation, Balancing Innovation and Risk, I request you to move to Shah Jahan Hall, and for the rest of you, request you to remain seated here. May I request those sitting at the back, you can move forward for this session because we wouldn't want the front seats to be empty. So please make yourselves comfortable. Give us 5 minutes to turn the stage around and we will start with the session right away.